Right? Hey, my name is Joe Montemayor. I'm a major in border and Homeland Security, and I will be conducting a speech on gun control in America. Okay, the Second Amendment states, and I quote, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed." The United States Constitution, Amendment 2, right? That gives us the right as citizens to bear arms in the United States, right? But with so much violence that's been occurring in our nation, gun control debates have had a lot of opinions. Some people are for it, some people are against it. The most recent debate about gun control is about the age of children. At what age should children be allowed to utilize a weapon? The reason for it was because of the shooting of a 9-year-old little girl who accidentally shot her firearms instructor while she was training on a fully automatic weapon. Okay, many of those who are in favor of gun control say that situations just like Sandy Hook Elementary and the Colorado shooting in Arizona, in Colorado, would not happen if the average citizen didn't have access to firearms. And then also many argue that the Second Amendment does not protect the right of people to bear arms. It protects for militias and police. They have the right to bear arms, not the average citizen. David Clark, an attorney from Jackson, Mississippi states, and I quote, "The right to bear arms therefore does not apply to individuals per se, but only to participants in units that are controlled by the various states, such as our law enforcement." Okay. Today I will be informing you of the pros and cons of gun control. Okay. This is a topic that I am qualified to speak about. For one, I've done research on it for this assignment, and two, I'm currently a firearms instructor for the federal government. I will do this by informing you of ways that gun control can be positive and negative. Like everything, there's always a positive side and a negative side to any argument that you come across. Okay, one thing about gun control people say is it will provide a safer community for our children, right? And you can do this by what? By instilling background checks, waiting periods, and stuff like that. You know, you'll be able to take away the position for people who have criminal records and mental illness. They're not going to be able to acquire firearms. On the negative side, people say that if you do implement gun control laws, then you're going to hinder the citizens' protection for self-defense. And one of the ways this is happening right now is they're stating whether veterans, combat veterans, should be allowed to buy weapons or not due to the PTSD. So there's a law-abiding citizen who might be hindered by these new gun control regulations. Okay, situations such as Sandy Hook Elementary shootings, like I mentioned, and the movie theater shootings in Colorado, have shown that it might be time for our nation to consider revising the Second Amendment. Our communities are no longer safe as they once were, right? I mean, back in the day when I was a child, my parents worried about 2 things. Don't talk to strangers, look both ways before you cross the street. That time no longer exists. Now when we drop off our kids, now we're at risk that our children are going to experience something violent in their school. Back in the day it wasn't like that. Gun control regulations such as requiring background checks will ensure that people, such as those with criminal records, may not have access to weapons. This will ensure that our communities are safer for our children. Okay, Pro 1, reduction of violence. Okay, Raymond W. Kelly, he's from the U.S. Treasury Department, states, and I quote, "Mandatory waiting periods, bans on assault rifles, limits on guns and ammunition, purchases, and registration of all handguns slows the flow of guns into the hands of criminals and reduce gun-related crime and violence." Okay, this can be seen in our country and in other countries. Our country does not have very good gun control laws. Texas, for example, is one of the states where anybody can buy a gun. There's no waiting period, and they don't go through background checks. Okay, Japan has very strict gun laws. Okay, the homicide rate in the U.S. involving firearms is about 22 for every 100,000. In Japan, it is less than 1 for every 100,000. So that may show how restricting gun control can curb violence. Background checks also will limit persons with criminal records or mental illness from acquiring firearms. Okay, a lot of the people who are doing active shootings, like in Sandy Hook and all that, they have had mental issues. Okay, and the states did not do a thorough background check to keep these people from acquiring handguns and firearms, right? And that's the reason that they get the ability to acquire them. Okay, by implementing background checks, you can phase out people who should not have access to weapons. And be able to prevent situations like this. The second benefit of gun control is that implementing such as required training will limit accidents that are caused by gun control every year. Again, I'm from the state of Texas, right? The state of Texas does not require anything. No background check, no training on a weapon. There's so many people who buy weapons every day that have never even fired it once, never even gone through any kind of proper training, even basic training on how to properly store it, right? Dr. John Leventhal conducted a study. He states, and I quote, reduction in accidents involving firearms, review hospital records, found that firearms caused 7,391 hospitalizations among children younger than 20. During 2009, the most recent year for which records are available. Okay, a lot of children are hurt every year by firearms. Either they hurt each other playing with it, or they're injured with people who shouldn't have them, and they use them for violence. You know, but most of the situations in which an accident was involved with a firearm, that child was involved, that situation could be prevented if it was only properly stored. If the parent had put it away properly, or kept it from their reach, that accident could have been prevented. The problem is that most of these people don't have the proper training required, right, to purchase them, and they don't know how to properly handle them. So by implementing training programs like that, you can include safety regulations and how to properly teach people how to utilize them and handle them, and how to safely store them. Firearms are one of the 3 causes of death among children. This was according to a study conducted by American Academy of Pediatrics. Like every debate in the nation today, for every pro statement, there's also a con statement. Those against gun control state that having stricter gun laws may only hinder the law-abiding citizen, like I mentioned earlier. One of the biggest debates right now on gun control is, should veterans who've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, should they be allowed to own firearms? Because a lot of them come back with PTSD, a lot of them come back with anger issues. Okay, these are law-abiding citizens, don't have a criminal record or nothing like that, and they fought for their country, but yet these small things, because they're on medication, you know, they're trying to keep them from owning firearms. Okay, Robert W. Lee states, and I quote, implementing gun control laws takes away the citizen's self-defense. Gun control laws encourage crime and violence. Since the average citizen may not be able to own a firearm, then those who are there to do harm know this, and they will be encouraged more to actually prey on people, because they can think they're vulnerable. Okay? Criminals will prey amongst those who are unarmed by committing these crimes. You know, if somebody's going to rob somebody that they know they might not have access to a weapon, they're going to be encouraged to do so, because they know that person doesn't have a way to defend himself. And what does a predator always do? He looks for a weaker prey, a weak target. My final point is that even with gun control, criminals will still always find a way to acquire firearms. This can be achieved on the black market, which if we were to ban firearms, that black market would turn for that. Okay, people would find weapons on the black market. And not only do you have a black market for drugs and pirated CDs and stuff like that, you're also going to have a black market for weapons. Okay, one of ATF agent Jay Watchell, he states, and I quote, one of the most common ways criminals get guns is through straw purchases. Straw purchases, what it is a way that somebody who allowed legally to buy a gun, he buys it in his name and he sells it to somebody else who may not be able to buy it. Right? That's what a straw purchase is. Okay, straw purchases account for almost 46%, nearly 26,000 illegally tracked weapons. All right, and that's the way that a lot of the cartel in Mexico were getting the weapons shipped to them. People who were legally able to buy weapons were buying them and shipping them to Mexico. One of the weapons that was purchased in a straw purchase was from an ATF alcohol, tobacco, firearms operation called Fast and Furious. Okay, these guys would buy weapons legally and they would ship them to the cartel. ATF found out about this, and what they did is they decided they were going to track them. They were going to let it happen, and they were going to just track the weapons. Okay, well, they lost track of the weapons. And then you had Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. He was one of the agents that was killed by these weapons that they lost track of. The same as Jaime Zapata, Homeland Security investigator Jaime Zapata. He was killed in Mexico. The weapon that was tracked to him, it was one that was let loose in Operation Fast and Furious by straw purchases. Okay, I have informed you on the pros and cons of gun control. By implementing regulations, we can provide a safer community for our children, as well as maintain proper gun safety and education at home for our children. Even with gun control, criminals will still find a way to get guns, and by implementing gun control, we may hinder law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves. Thanks.